The consumption market has contracted in recent weeks due to the tragic Sewol-ho ferry accident. Arirang News correspondent Hwang Ji-hye delved deeper into this serious matter. Approximately 250 events and cultural festivals were canceled, and mass school trips in the first half of this year have been banned. The whole nation feels insecure about safety matters and is grieving with the victims' families from the tragic sinking of the Sewol-ho ferry. This effect is being seen in department stores as well, especially when compared to the previous year's sales. This news coverage was informative as it explained in detail how the Sewol-ho passenger ferry tragedy is affecting the lives of the Korean people. U.S. President Barack Obama completed his Asia tour. Reporter Connie Lee summed up his trip. President Obama visited 4 Asian countries, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, and the Philippines during his week-long tour. His time in the Philippines marked the last leg of his overseas trip. During his stay in Manila, the president expressed support in mediating the nation's territorial dispute with China. Reporter Connie Lee's article on President Obama's Asia tour was a helpful one that showed the various relationships the U.S. shares in Asia. The whole nation is in mourning over the sinking of the Sewol-ho passenger ferry, and North Korea held live fire drills close to the de facto inter-Korean maritime border on Tuesday, April 29th. Unification Ministry Correspondent Hwang Sung-hee delved deeper into this issue. Around 50 rounds were fired, only 1/5 the total fired off in a similar drill the month before. Pyongyang threatened that something big and unimaginable would happen before April 30th, and experts say a 4th nuclear test could be in the works. Through this report, we could see how the NLL live-fire drills are raising tensions on the Korean peninsula. On April 29th, an official memorial altar for the victims of the capsized Sewol-ho passenger ferry was set up at the Ansan Hwarang Memorial Hall in the city of Ansan.
When I first arrived at the Ansan Hwarang Memorial Hall, everything was barren because it just started at 10 a.m. local time here in Korea. So, things were getting prepared, portraits were coming in.
The press and volunteers were stationed in front of the joint memorial hall. And the hall was busy with preparations for the mourners to come. President Park Geun-hye visited the memorial hall.
아, 네네, 방금 가셨어요. 제가 이따가 연결할 때 오셨다가 가셨다고 말을 하려고 하거든요. 네, 감사합니다. 네.
Ordinary citizens can start paying their respects from 10 o'clock in the morning. Myung-kil is busy with preparations for the 10 o'clock news.
The new altar is run by the government and...
Rain continues to fall across the country, but that hasn't stopped tens of thousands of people paying tribute to those who died. We connect live to our Ji Myung-kil, who's standing by at the Ansan Hwarang Memorial Hall. Myung-kil.
Good morning, Mark. This new memorial hall opened earlier this morning, and people have been streaming in to say their last goodbyes. Just an hour ago, President Park Geun-hye visited the new altar and paid tribute to the victims of the Sewol-ho ferry. People who can't make it here can instead send text messages or personal letters commemorating the victims. The messages are posted up on a bulletin board so they can be read by mourners paying their respects here. This was Ji Myung-kil reporting from Ansan Hwarang Memorial Altar.
it suddenly starts to rain. Myung-kil grabs his laptop in a hurry and asks for help from the volunteers.
죄송한데 여기 잠깐만 있을까요?
It's a somber day with rain and strong winds. The weather conditions were also like this when he was reporting from Jindo Island. Despite the hardships, Myung-kil tries to do his best in the field as he thinks of how the victims' families feel.
One sad thing about this catastrophic disaster is that, first of all, I think the reason why so much media got attention is because there were so many high school students involved. But apart from that, there were also just ordinary passengers. But the problem is that, everyone's a victim. No matter who they were, if they were on the boat, they were victims. But one saddening thing is that, since most of the media is so much focused on the students, the government wasn't able to actually sort of respond towards the victims of ordinary families, just people who are not students. But the government should also try to back up measures, devise measures to actually support, at least on the backside, sort of support the families, other people that are also affected by this big tragedy that shouldn't have happened.
Condolence calls by the public began at 10 o'clock. Ordinary citizens shared in the grief being felt by the families of the deceased and prayed that their loved ones are resting in peace. After the live 10 o'clock news connection, Myung-kil also went to the joint memorial altar. He feels grief as he sees the many portraits of the deceased.
조문하러 오신 거죠?
Outside, Myung-kil starts to interview visitors.
하신 건가요? 조금 이렇게 저희 카메라에다 조금 같이 담을 수 없을까? 좀 협조 좀 해줄 수 있으세요? 그냥 보시면서 방금 말씀하신 거. 네, 감사합니다. 누리 씨, 동엽아.
그러니까 우리 경우는 이제 매스컴을 통해 가지고 그런 상황을 알고 그러는데 실질적으로 현장에서 접하거나 그러면은
네.
힘들다고.
그렇더라고요. 그러니까 이게 제가 천주교라서 이제 성당을 가서 미사를 좀 보다가 그 신부님 이야기하면서 이제 마침내 유가족 아버님이 계시더라고요. 그래서 인터뷰를 했는데 뭐 거의 이제 눈물도 안 나시고 다 내려놓으신 것 같더라고요. 근데
Myung-kil has met many people during his coverage of the tragic Sewol-ho ferry disaster, and each one is emotional for any number of reasons.
보시면서 오시게 된 연유랑 또 영정 사진을 보면서 느끼신 소감 한마디 말씀 부탁드립니다.
국가에서는 9.7로 해당되는 그런 대형 사고가 일어나가지고 신문이나 TV를 통해 가지고 보기만 하다가 마음속에 어른으로서 부담이 되고 해서 애도를 표하고자 왔는데 앞으로는 이런 일이 없도록 국가에서 근본적인 대책을 세우고 국민들도 반성을 하고 해서 다시는 일어나지 않도록 해줘야죠.
사장님 감사합니다. 네, 감사합니다.
It's only been 1 hour since the memorial altar opened to visitors, and the line of people waiting got very long. There was one group of visitors who stood out. It's a group of male students from a high school in Incheon City. They came to the memorial altar with their homeroom teacher and their parents.
최근에 이제 이렇게 안타깝게도 이렇게 지금 친구와 같이 좀 나이 비슷한 또래 친구들이 많이 안 좋은 참사를 당했잖아요.
네.
그 뉴스 접했을 때 좀 느낌이 어땠는지.
일단 처음 접했을 때는 일단 저희랑 같은 고등학생이 그렇게 당했다니까 이게 좀 남일 같지가 않고 좀 마음에 많이 와닿았고, 그리고 거기 그 좁은 배 안에서 축구 얼마나 힘들었을까 하고 불쌍하다는 생각도 들고, 아직 뭐 살 날이 많이 남은 친구들인데 뭐 많은 세상 살면서 많은 걸 더 접해볼 수도 있는 건데 먼저 그렇게 가버렸으니까 그래서 마음이 좀 이상한 느낌도 들고 좀 마음이 안 좋을 것 같아요. 예.
By doing the interviews, I could just feel how sad the whole people are. It's just not a matter of fact that it's something that happened far long time ago, far away. It's just truly heartbreaking. I mean, just from students to adults, everyone's involved in this whole tragedy, and people are sharing their sadness. They're just portraying their thoughts, their whole anxiety and anger towards the people that need to be held accountable, responsible for this whole tragedy. So, through the interview, I was trying to portray that everybody here is trying to sort of share the whole sadness and the whole heartbreaking situation that shouldn't have happened in the first place.
Myung-kil prepares for the 12 o'clock news.
진엽 선배 여기 다 보이죠? 여기 줄. 그 멘션 조금 하려고요. 처음에.
We now connect live to our Ji Myung-kil, who is standing by at the Ansan Hwarang Memorial Hall. Myung-kil, fill us in.
Good afternoon. This new memorial hall opened earlier this morning, and people have been streaming in to say their last goodbyes. As you can see behind me, there's a long line of people just waiting to get into the memorial altar. The Ansan Hwarang Memorial Hall is 6 times larger than the previous altar, which was at the Ansan Olympic Memorial Park. Over the past 6 days, some 180,000 people have visited the altars set up in this city. This was Ji Myung-kil reporting from Ansan Hwarang Memorial Altar.
After the 12 o'clock live connection, Myung-kil moves his table to a different area, just in case it might be in the way of visitors. It's a little over 3 p.m. and already over 4,000 visitors have come to pay their respects at the memorial altar. And Myung-kil prepares for the afternoon news as visitors pay their condolences.
24 hours a day for anyone who wants to pay their respects.
Our correspondent is on site. Ji Myung-kil joins us live from Ansan Hwarang Memorial Hall. Myung-kil, despite the gloomy weather, thousands have turned up to pay their respects.
Good afternoon, Kanyang. This new memorial hall was opened earlier this morning, and since then, more than 4,500 people are streaming in to say their last goodbyes.
And this more permanent altar, like the temporary one before, it's open to the general public, correct?
Yes, that's right. The new memorial hall will be open 24 hours a day for anyone who wishes to pay respects to the victims. People who can't make it here can instead send text messages or personal letters commemorating the victims. The messages are posted up on a bulletin board so they can be read by mourners paying their respects here. This was Ji Myung-kil reporting live from Ansan Hwarang Memorial Altar.
One male visitor comes up to Myung-kil saying that he has some information.
가족들 동의만 하시면 그 문 쪽 앞에다가 폭약 설치해서
그게 아니고요.
네네. 철판이요?
절단하는 거 말하는 거예요.
네네. 수중에서 절단할 수 있는 거요?
수중에서 절단하는 걸 말하는 거예요.
아, 그러세요?
네, 그 부분이 왜 방송에서 안 나오니까
아,
폭발을 하면 안 되죠. 절단을 해가지고 철문을 띄워내야죠. 네네.
왜냐면 또 수중에서 그걸 절단할 수 있는 게 쉬운 건 아니니까.
그게 지금 개발이 돼 있고 지금
아,
하고 있어요.
아, 그런가요?
큰 충격을 안 주고도 그냥 자연스럽게 철판을 띄워낼 수가 있잖아요. 그러면
아,
그
네.
부분에 사람이 이게 통로를 확보할 수 있는 거죠.
근데 저도 진도를 일주일 내려가 있었는데 요거 관련해서는 특별히 언급이 없더라고요.
근데 이제 이 방법을 뭐 시도를 해봐야죠.
아,
이 수중에서 철판을 자르는 거예요.
아,
I actually didn't cover because I didn't have the enough information. But when I heard that news from him, I was thinking, yeah, why hasn't anyone raised such questions up in the first place? Why was every media just focusing on one item? So as a reward to that, I was thinking to myself, from now on, when I do some kind of such reportages about disasters or tragic moments, I should sort of broaden my perspectives more, and also try to listen and assimilate much information as I can. And I think the media shouldn't just focus on one thing, but should sort of broaden their perspectives to the much possibilities that are out there.
A yellow bulletin board has been set up near the memorial altar. The board is filled with hundreds of messages for the deceased. Myung-kil also writes a few words expressing his sorrows, not as a reporter, but as a citizen of the Republic of Korea.
As she also said, in the morning, President Park Geun-hye paid a visit.
Our correspondent is on site. Ji Myung-kil joins us live from Ansan Hwarang Memorial Hall. Myung-kil, despite the gloomy weather, thousands have turned up to pay their respects.
Good afternoon. This new memorial altar opened earlier.
From Jindo Island to Ansan City,
11,000 people have come here.
Myung-kil has been covering the sinking of the Sewol-ho ferry from the very beginning.
This was Ji Myung-kil reporting live from Ansan Hwarang Memorial Altar.
Once the funeral finishes, it doesn't mean that the whole tragedy ended. I mean, it's still going to be remembered in the people's hearts that an ill-fated tragedy shouldn't have happened in the first place. And I'm sure since Tuesday, since President Park Geun-hye vowed to launch a new safety ministry, I'm sure that this time that new body will function as a control tower to actually help people in the future to handle disasters and respond to any kind of tragic situation. So I hope that this new safety body will prevent further recurrences of such tragic disasters in the future.
Oh, I'm just preparing for my weekly show up front, and we're going to talk about the North Korean defector issue today, so getting ready for my show.
영어가 고생할 것 같아요. 오래간만에.
문과 이탈 주민 지원 재단의 정홍희 이사장님이랑 이제 링크라는 미국의 본부를 두고 있는 이제 탈북자 지원하는 그쪽 센터에 이제 박석계 씨가 이제 패널로 오늘 오시기로 했습니다.
바쁘신데 아이 그렇습니다. 저희 하시니까 그 프로젝트 저희가 이따가 여쭤보긴 할 건데 네. 프로젝트 같은 경우에 해보시니까 좀
그런 거는 오히려 아웃풋이 있지. 왜냐면 이제 그거는 우리나라에 관심 있는 기관들 내지는 지금 현재 하고 있는 기관들이 요번에 여객선 보면 그 재난 그 구호의 컨트롤 타워의 부재 때문에 생기는 문제인데요. 우리도 이 탈북자 관련해서 일하는 기관들을 쭉 그려보니까 만약에 대량 탈북이 일어난다든지 컨티니언스가 발생하면 모든 기관이 다 지금 그렇게 돼 있어 정리 시스템. 그래서 그 비슷한 문제가 나올 가능성이 있기 때문에 우리도 컨트롤 타워가 필요한데, 그러니까 컨트롤 타워 해야 된다. 그 대신에 우리는 허브가 되겠다. 그러니까 컨트롤을 위해서 하는 거고, 허브는 뭐냐면 우리가 있지만 또 유사한 일을 하는 기관들이 있어요. 적십자서부터 시작해서 있으니까 그걸 전부 엮어내게 되는 거야. 통폐합이라기보다는 그러니까 조율을 통해서 업무 중복을 피하고 시너지를 올리는 그런 거지.
안녕하세요. I was, yeah. not bad. I've been living here for a while.
네, 가겠습니다. To cut. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to Upfront. I'm Naehan Byung.
Hello, I'm Yoo Jong-soo. On today's Upfront, we'll discuss the role that North Korean defectors will play in process of unification.
First question, in general, would you say North Korean defectors play a more positive or a negative role in the South Korean society?
Huge positive effect on the pre-unification and unification and even post-reunification process.
So North Korean defectors don't just play a role in South Korean society, but they also play this bridge role back into North Korean society.
Are they refugees? Are they given the refugee status? Are they
asylum seekers or are they Koreans?
They are regarded as defectors instead of refugees.
And once they come to South Korea, of course, under the Constitution of the Republic of Korea, they qualify as South Korean citizens. Republic of Korea citizens, to be exact.
We have to revise and even overhaul the existing North Korean defectors policy here in South Korea.
If you look at North Korean refugees that are coming here, it's very different actually to 15 years ago and now.
As a Korean, I wonder if I successfully made myself understood in English. But when it comes to this issue, I really enjoy the talk show. I hope the viewers also enjoyed listening to us.
Actually, I think that I learned a lot, and so I hope the audience enjoys the discussion as well. I think it's a really important discussion about North Korean defectors and how they're resettling into South Korea.
I'm hearing from two guests. They're working hard on developing new programs and new initiatives. So I see that if we, Korean government as well as Korean citizens, to get together to help the Korean defectors, I think that we can do a lot of successful stories.